In this video, I'll provide an overview of some of the advanced marketing capabilities that are part of DX Fusion Financial. These are powered by a separate software as a service called Progress Sitefinity Insight. This separate software as a service connects to your Sitefinity instance and shares data back and forth between the two platforms. Here we're looking at the dashboard of Progress Sitefinity Insight. When you first land on the dashboard, you'll see statistics for the last interval of time, in this case 30 days. We can see data about conversions, touch points, visitors, contacts, and so on. And as you scroll down the page, you see information about personas, touch point attribution, lead scoring, and so on. And I'll explain a little bit more about each of these in this video. The first thing to know is that Sitefinity Insight starts capturing data about your users from the time that they're an anonymous user and they start interacting with your site. So Sitefinity Insight sets a cookie on their machine and then watches their behavior as they start to interact with various pieces of content. And all of that data is then surfaced in this tool for your analysis. So I like to start by looking at personas. So in our Fusion Financial application, we have 3 different personas defined, and you can define whatever personas make sense for your financial institution. But here I've got a young couple, a millennial, and a professional, and we can look into these details of each persona and see how I've defined these, the age, the income, and maybe some of the goals and challenges that each of these persona types has. And for each persona that you define in your instance of Sitefinity Insight, you create rules. And when users take action on your site, whether that's visiting a certain page, searching for a certain piece of content, submitting a form, those users earn points. And once they pass your pre-established threshold, they then fit that criteria to be part of that persona. So in this case, for the young couple, I've set a threshold of 100, and I've set several conditions. And so when an anonymous visitor comes to the site, and they start interacting with the site, we start to kind of categorize what kind of user they are. Are they a young couple? Are they a millennial? Or are they a professional? And we can see some data about our site and when certain visitors have passed those thresholds and how many threshold passes have happened in the last period of time and over the lifetime of the site. We can also start to see how those personas relate to conversions, which I'll talk about in just a second. But this is a very powerful feature of Insight, that you can define personas and start to put people in these personas. And one reason that you do that is so that you can personalize content. So back on the fusionfinancial.smoothfusion.com website, I've created a marketing segment, and this marketing segment is called Young Couple. And this segment has a characteristic which is tied to the persona called young couple. You'll see I also have the personas of millennial and professional as I've defined them in Insight. So this is bidirectional communication between Sitefinity and Insight so that they can share data. So in this case, when somebody fits into the persona of young couple, then we can do something to the content on the website. We can personalize that for them. So if I go back to the pages tree and I go and look at the home page, we'll see a designator that says that that particular page has been personalized. So if I click on home, I can see how it's been personalized. So here is the default version of the page that all users will see. It's got this hero that just talks about banking and usability with a card. But for that young millennial, or that young couple, we've determined that maybe they're there looking for a home loan. And so once they reach that threshold and pass that persona, and then they come to the site, they'll see this version of this homepage hero that's different, with a house and a call to action about looking for a new home. So you can start to see how this is very powerful, and you can customize individual widgets, or you can do what I've done here and customize the whole page. And then you can also preview this page as various segments, so you can start to see how are those various user segments going to see the page. And so in this case, I can see how everyone would see it, and I can see the whole page, or I can see for a specific segment what would a young couple see once they've met that persona threshold. So again, all I've done is change out the hero image, but you could have an entirely different page. You could have different items in the carousel. You could have different calls to action, just based on the fact that this anonymous visitor passed a threshold and looks like a certain kind of persona. Also, a similar concept is lead scoring. So I've set up one lead scoring type that I've called sales funnel. And then within that lead scoring type, I've set up various stages. I just use some generic terms here: awareness, interest, evaluation, engagement, and commitment. And the same idea when users interact with the site and they submit forms or visit pages, we give them points, and we can start to see how those users start to break down. You can also personalize content based on lead score. So maybe you've got a different message to somebody that's in the awareness stage than you do that's in the commitment stage. And all of these things are point and click. So you can create personas, you can create lead scoring types without having to engage a developer. Everything is just point and click here in the dashboard. Next, I'll take a look at conversions. So conversions we typically think of as form submissions, but they could also be content views or other actions that are taken on the site. It's very easy to come and define a conversion. You can give it a name, and then you can see the various events that count as a conversion, whether it's a visit to a page, a form submission, a file download, or so on. So once those actions happen and that conversion takes place, then it shows up here. And so we can see over the past 30 days how many people have converted on the mortgage contact form or the vehicle loan submission form, for example. We also can define touch points, and touch points are pieces of content. These might be blog posts, they might be pages, whatever they are. So we can see here how many total hits the various pages have received, how many unique visitors to those pages. And then the nice thing about tracking touch points is that you can compare those against the conversions to start to see the attribution. So here, for each of the conversions that I've defined, we can see for the people that went on to convert, how did that particular piece of content attribute to their conversion? Was it more likely or less likely to convert once that user has seen that piece of content? There's also on the dashboard a nice representation of this content attribution as well. So you can start to see all the touch points and then the various conversions, and you can mouse over these and look at the attribution rate to see how your content is affecting your conversions. Next thing is A/B test. So just like you would come and personalize content and show different people different things, you can also have different versions of a page and you can run an A/B test. So right now I'm running an A/B test on a vehicle loan page. So a page where somebody might come to apply for a vehicle loan. I've got two different versions of a form. I've got this original version, which is this long form, which asks a whole bunch of information. I've also got a short version of this form that doesn't ask for quite so much information. And what happens then is I set up an A/B test in Sitefinity, and I can show up to 10 different versions of a page to various people. And then we can run a test over time to see which of those versions is successful. So here under marketing A/B testing, I can see that I've got this A/B test running and it is collecting data, and I can specify the start date and the end date, and I can specify what page is going to have variations. And in this case, I've got 50% of the traffic going to the original version and 50% to the short version. And the goal here is for somebody to submit the form on the page. So back in Sitefinity Insight, I can see the results from that A/B test. I can click into that, and I can see the goal rates, goal completions for the original version as well as the short version. And then once it collects enough data, it'll be able to determine what's a winner. So which of those versions is best. So you can tweak, in my case, I tweaked a version of the form, but you can really tweak anything about a page and start to optimize calls to action or verbiage or whatever it may be. There's also here a personalization report, which goes along with that personalization I just showed you on the home page. So we can look and see over the last 30 days how many page views were personalized by that young couple segment, how many people saw that customized version, and then you can start to see how those things attribute to conversions as well. The last thing to show is when a user changes from an anonymous user to a known user, they become a contact. Typically, that happens when they fill out a form. And when they do that, they provide their name and their email information. And so they change from that an anonymous user to a contact. And so once that happens, you'll actually see the email that they put. You'll see which persona they align with, where they are in any lead scoring. So here's the sales funnel. And what's cool is then you can click on the contact name. You can see the information about them, when their first interaction was, when they become a contact, visual representations of the lead score and the personas, the touch points they hit, and then you can actually see their full customer journey. So you can see when they came to the site, how they earned points, maybe they performed a site search, when they started matching the different personas, and then if they have converted, you can see that as well. So it's really powerful information, and it actually goes back to the time that they were an anonymous user because it's been tracking them the whole time through the system. So a very powerful tool, this Progress Sitefinity Insight, gives you lots of ability to personalize content, to A/B test various pieces of functionality, to track conversions and attribution of your content, and then to show personalized versions of content based on personas and lead scores. So a great feature that you can get a lot of value from.